Hello again, welcome to My Sporting Life, and we're honoured on this occasion to be in the presence of an international football manager, the manager of Republic of Ireland women, also the former manager of teams including, well, primarily Sheffield United, Birmingham City and Aston Villa. Big clubs there and a big nation to manage. Carla Ward, good to see you, and no stranger actually to the studio, because when you were manager of Sheffield United we chatted then. And how's it going? What's it like? You're relatively new into this job as an international manager. It must be so different from the club scene.
Yeah, it is. It's good to be back here, by the way. It's not changed, has it? No, it's different. It's different. I enjoy it, but it's very different. You miss the day-to-day, and having spent 10 years day-to-day on the grass, to go to international was very different. But look, it's certainly a step up, a different challenge, get to see my daughter a lot more, which was really pivotal in my decision-making. And yeah, it's a very, very different way of living, would I say.
How does somebody born in the Isle of Wight, I believe you were, get to be Republic of Ireland manager?
Fall over a lot, face a lot of challenges, learn a lot along the way, learn your trade, I guess. And I'm a girl from a council estate where it was jumpers for goalposts with the boys, and I think it's just an obsession from a very early age to be better and to stay in the game. And fortunate that 9 months ago I got the call to become a Republic of Ireland manager, and I jumped at it, being honest.
Yeah, and you had a lot of experience to go into that job. I mean, for those who don't know, I've looked it up, but I knew Carla was well travelled in football. I mean, she's played for clubs including Bristol City, Bristol Rovers. You've got the set there in Bristol. In fact, later on, you've managed both main Birmingham clubs as well. So you seem to settle in cities. A Spanish club in Alicante. I would have mentioned which club I'd have been able to pronounce it. Leeds United you played for, Lincoln City, Sheffield FC, 200 plus games and over 100 goals for them. And you played very impressively for Sheffield United.
I'll correct that one.
Go on then.
Sheffield United, well, I was claimed to be a player manager, player coach, but I never kicked a ball.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was down. No, I was down.
Yeah.
I was down and it comes up for some strange reason that I played games at Sheffield United, but no, I solely managed.
Okay. Well, we'll come on to your playing and managerial career as we go along. But born in the Isle of Wight at a time, and I know you only lived there for 3 years, so you won't remember any of it, but at a time when women's football was not the headline grabber that it is today, and when I'd imagine fewer girls played it, or if they did intend to play it, were maybe a bit inhibited from playing it. So what were your first recollections of kind of muscling in did you have to do to get involved?
Yeah, I moved across to Torquay at a young age, and I lived on a council estate where all the boys played football, the girls not so much, but I was one that was over the school fences or onto the fields with the boys, and just loved it from an early age. And I remember at junior school, when I went from infants to juniors, there was football training for the boys. I turned up, I was the only girl. And I remember thinking, I just want to play for the school team. And on a Friday, the team sheet goes up outside Mr. Matthews' office, and the names will be down. And I thought, well, we'll give it a go. And I remember walking down the corridor, and I looked at the team sheet, and it wasn't just that my name was there, it said Carla, captain. And I thought, okay, well, I've made the team, but I'm the captain as well. And I was astounded. I was like, wow. And I thought, we're going to have to... And I was only probably... infant school, junior school, I was 9, 10? And I remember playing away at Fox Hill in Brixham, just outside Torquay, in my first game, when I managed to score, and we won 1-0. And when I say score, it bounced off me, but we'll take them, right? So yeah, that was the start of it, really. And up until I was 14, just used to play with the boys. And then we went to the head teacher one day and asked for a girls' team and was told no, but we carried on, batting that door down, and we managed to get a girls team up and running, albeit a very small girls team.
Yeah, going back to that first team sheet and your name not only being on it, but you being captain, how did the boys react to that?
Do you know what? Back then, I don't think there was a reaction, but because I played constantly on the estate with them, I think it was a little bit different. I was probably the girl that could play, so there was never really a reaction. But all of the boys that played in the school also played on the estate, so you know what it's like when you want your best players to be captains. When we're over the school fences, I was one of those.
They accepted that you were the best player.
Yeah. I think that happened probably even then into senior school as well, and there was a couple of boys that I played with that there was always 2 or 3 of us that were above the rest, and those 2 went on and played professionally. I say professionally at Torquay United, Plymouth Argyle, Exeter City. So it was it was fascinating, but certainly there was 2 or 3 of us that were always having to be separated on the separate teams because they did accept that.
Yeah. Do you think that, say, among the Lionesses who've become household names, quite rightly so for their achievements, that there was a similar progression in their youth when they would find that they were the best player?
Yeah.
You know, the boys would have to accept, she's a better player than me.
Yeah, and I think the younger boys, at a younger age you do, and I think that they probably all had something similar, but it's different now, isn't it? I think there's probably more of a hype around it. The physiological side of the game has changed drastically. So I don't believe girls and boys can compete on a physical level. But
that's
I think,
true later on, more than at an early age, isn't it?
At an early age, I don't. You now see I could walk past the park in Sheffield and you'll see the boys and the girls playing at a young age. I love that because I think it's the girls certainly learn a different way of playing. So I would encourage it until you can't.
And it's become accepted. It's no longer abnormal. People not looking saying, why is that girl playing with those boys?
Yeah.
No, it's not like that anymore, is it?
No,
it's good.
It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and how gratifying for yourself. You've spent almost a lifetime in football. I mean, you're 41 now. Sorry, I don't usually mention ages. I never mention mine. That's for sure. That the game, the women's game, has reached the level it has now, where it's gained respect and everybody really, or people in the right mind, everybody enjoys it. I know there are still some bigots out there who who cannot accept that you can't compare the two.
Yeah.
How frustrating is that? When
I think
try to do that.
There's still people. Look, there's still people out there that don't like anything about anything. You're never going to change those people. I think what we should talk about is the tens of millions of people that are tuning into the women's game. Attendances have gone drastically through the roof in the last 10 years, and you look at Arsenal at the Emirates, they're getting between 40 and 60,000 when they play at home, and there's some Premier League clubs that aren't getting that. But we have to steer away from this constant comparing, because they are, football's football, technically and tactically, yes, but the physiological side of the game and the physical side of the game is completely different. A woman's not going to compete with a man physically. That's a fact. So we have to treat the women's game as its own sport. But there's too many out there that still want to compare. But you're going to get that. You're going to get that.
Well, you've made a professional career of it. Early on, of course, that was impossible to do.
Yeah.
So you must have had other jobs alongside your passion for football.
Yeah, I think up until even actually when I was at Sheffield United, I still had my print company here in Sheffield, and I had to do both. It was only probably when I went into WSL football where, one, the wage allowed you to, but two, the time and what you have to give to the job then changes. So sold the company, and then that was probably the start of never looking back and realising that your career is only going to go one way, and you're in a position, if you continue on your journey, that you can earn a living for yourself and your family, your children. So yeah, that was big for me.
Yeah, but as a player through all those years, and I mentioned the Bristol clubs and various others, you were sort of playing in your own time and maybe getting expenses now and again, and that's it. presumably.
at best.
Yeah.
In Spain, it was different. We were paid full time. We were on a full time salary with a house and a car, and it was very different. The money was great there. You come back, and of course, a lot of those clubs. I think Leeds was the only full time club that I played for, and you would argue full hybrid, call it what you want, but from where it was to where it is absolutely huge.
And we all enjoy it. I mean, you must have been off your seat a few times watching the Lionesses in these Euros and the previous ones as well. I think what an amazing achievement.
Yeah, I think the whole Euros was fascinating. I think England got off to a horrible start. And then we won't talk about the penalty shootout, one of the worst shootouts I think I've ever watched, men's and women's game. And I think as a whole, there was an awful lot. I think Switzerland can be proud of the way they put on the Euros, filled out every stadium, some of the quality. I mean, England, again, similarly to 4 years ago, would argue that didn't play the best football. A little bit boring at times. But
maybe the better team lost in the final, but it's to do with resilience.
But what Serena has is an absolute mentality, and that group has a mentality where, you know what, they don't necessarily need to play well, and they seem to constantly come out with results, and that's a credit to them, credit to Serena in the way that it's a bit like the Fergie days of old, isn't it, finding a way. But it was fascinating because people can argue that they weren't the best team at the tournament, but it doesn't matter. They found a way, they found results, and they got it over the line. So no, it was unbelievable for this country.
Yeah, and I mean, you had a couple of good results in qualifying, didn't you? Republic of Ireland didn't qualify, but I'm not sure what the terms of your job and how high the expectations were.
Well, I only got the job because they didn't qualify, so they made a change on the back of that. So when they lost the qualifier against Wales, the previous manager was then relieved of her duties, and then I came in post that. So I took over at the start of the Nations League campaign. So I think the expectations were to get to the Euros, and we know what it's like in football. If you don't make a tournament when you expected to, then the chances are you're going to shake hands and off you go. I think that's the reality of football management. So our expectations now is, well, we've got the qualifiers in October. To see whether we go into Nations League A or B. And then we've got the World Cup qualifiers starting next year. Is the expectation to get to the World Cup? No, because only 12 European or 11 European teams go. But we love being the underdogs, and there's an underdog mentality where we'll give everything we can to try and make a World Cup. Yeah,
am I right that in the Euros qualifiers you beat France? Republic of Ireland women beat France. That's a fairly impressive result.
Yeah, in the Nations League last year, so really big result, 3-1 down in Cork, and it's a very different looking team now. There's been many retired, a lot more younger players coming through, but for the country it was huge. And by the way, the people of Cork are absolutely brilliant. We played a game down in Cork back in May against Slovenia, and wow, they know how to support the game down there, that's for sure. Yeah,
there are pockets of, like you said, of huge support for women's football in England. You mentioned Arsenal, and yet there are other places, with quite historic football clubs who've got a women's team where the support is very, very minimal. So what can be done to change that, or is it just about how each individual board of directors sees the women's game and how much they're going to back it?
I think it is exactly that. The latter point, I think your board have to buy into the women's game. I think sadly there are a lot of clubs that are still a tick box. I think there's a lot of clubs doing it tremendously well and see an opportunity, and it should be looked at as a long-term opportunity, because there's now an awful lot of clubs making revenue, and it used to be just maybe a £3 to £5 million loss each year, whereas now that's changing into revenue, and the clubs that stick with it. I mean, Arsenal, there's his revenue, and look at the way they do it. They've spent probably the last 10 years doing it right, gradually, and they've got an exceptional model now, and I think a lot of clubs could learn an awful lot from them. But it does come down to the board, I think, and the owners.
It does seem, though, that if a board is prepared to back it and invest in it, they will get their rewards. That would seem to be the case from the attendances and the interest, and it's a wave that needs to be ridden, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have to look at the bigger picture. You know, I think that's really important. Have a look at the infrastructure, the city. I mean, we always talk about location, and I know I'm biased because I live here in Sheffield. I love the city, but I think this is the perfect location for a top women's team. It's just sad that there isn't that. Yes, you've got Sheffield United in the Championship, but I think you've got two gigantic football clubs, you know, that are globally recognised. And if you had a club competing in the top division here, I mean, what it would do for the city and all the young girls in the city would be huge.
Interesting. But I suppose that there is so much financial strain on football clubs, not least because of them overstepping their resources in many cases, that the women's game is always like a, can we put that cherry on the top of this cake? Can we afford to do it? Because the men's game has just become so expensive and so difficult to get to the Premier League.
Yeah.
But maybe the regulator and imposing, let's say, more sensible practices in the game will enable clubs to spread that available finance a bit more.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of Premier League clubs now selling their women's team to their parent companies for PSR. Let's be really honest, that's what it's for, right? To help. So there's other luxuries to having your women's team, other than the obvious. So it is difficult. I always say it's really difficult because, and that's where you've got to be really careful with spend, and you see all this nonsense about equal pay. The women's game's not there yet. We have to separate it. We have to treat it on what the income is, what the revenue is, how marketable it is, commercially viable it is. And I think if we do that and we build the women's game that way, it'll be more sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about your managerial experience, which is quite extensive now. At Sheffield United, you finished 5th in the Women's Championship and then 2nd place as well to follow it, which is extremely impressive. At Birmingham City, you steered them away from relegation, joined Aston Villa. I'll ask you in a minute how that went down, but you joined Aston Villa of the Super League, and you finished, that was in 2021, and you finished 9th and 5th and reached an FA Cup semi-final. That's a lot of experience, and I imagine because there is a high casualty rate which mirrors the men's game, quite intense and quite pressurised, I'd have thought that.
Yeah, it is, and I think the way now it's televised and there's increasing amount of pressure that comes on female managers, and I always say, you understand football, right? So you know that if you lose potentially 4 or 5 games on the bounce, then you're potentially going to lose your job. The difference is in the women's game, the money's not as big as the men's, so there has to be an element of being careful with that. But yeah, look, I've been fortunate. I've been at 3 big clubs. I loved my time at Sheffield United, and working with Kevin McKay was special. Somebody that I still connect with now, someone I still have a relationship with now. I think he's a wonderful man that gave me a really good opportunity at a time where I didn't realise I needed it, and then really started to develop my career there. And then when we finished 2nd, when COVID come along, I think there was a lot of conversations on what next, and the decision from both of us was we're going to part ways, and I took the job at Birmingham, which everybody told me not to take, because I think 2 weeks before the season there was eight registered players, very little money. That was, as everybody knows, well documented around the press, that there was a lot of problems there. But I took it on the basis that I thought, if we get relegated, everybody thinks we're going to get relegated. If I keep them up, I can potentially make a name for myself and kick on my career. And I took the job against everybody's advice and managed to keep them up with 3 games to spare, which was unbelievable. It was just such a powerful season. A group of players that had been written off, a group of players that a lot of them weren't getting paid, and some just quite horrendous things all season to contend with. But my word, it was a group of players with character, with heart, with everything you need to go against the odds. So managed to stay up, and then got the call from Aston Villa, and my first thought was, I can't possibly do this. I'm going to get absolutely battered here. Safe to say that happened, yeah.
Oh,
So
right. Okay.
It was. I got some pretty horrific abuse for not just days, weeks, but you have to accept that's going to happen. You have to accept.
Why should you accept it? Why
It's
should
gonna
anybody
happen.
accept that?
Look, if you fight it, you're gonna use energy that
How did it come to you?
the abuse,
Yeah.
or a lot of online abuse,
Yeah.
abuse, letters through the post, all sorts. But look, it happens. I think we say that we shouldn't accept it, and you're right, we shouldn't. But you're never going to stop. It happens now. It's worse now than it's ever been, I think. Social media is a vile place at times, isn't it? But yeah, it was a difficult time. But I made a decision based on my career, what Aston Villa wanted to do. Financially, would look after my family, yes. So I took that decision, and yeah, it wasn't an easy one. But I took it, and unbelievable few years there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of the men's game, echoing Alex McLeish and Steve Bruce managed both Birmingham City and Aston Villa.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they went from one directly to the other, though. I think that's
Yeah.
where it becomes a bit more inflamed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. It was quite.
Very brave of you to do
It
that.
was quite rough, but sometimes you have to put your career and your family first, and that's what I did.
And did Villa supporters hold it against you that you'd managed Birmingham?
No, they had they felt like they had one over on Birmingham, so
Right,
it was
right.
it wasn't too bad. I got fully supported very quickly, but
Yeah.
no, it was good. And Villa was a top club and had 3 very, very good seasons there. And
Yeah. How did that finish for you in terms of moving on?
yeah, it was an interesting one because I still had a couple of years on my contract, and I was putting my little girl to bed one night, and she said to me, "Mummy, are you? Am I off tomorrow?" And I said, "Yes, darling, it's Saturday." And she said, "Are you off?" And I said, "No, I'm at football." And she said, "But when am I going to have a day off with you?" And my heart sunk. And any mums will tell you, mum guilt is the most awful guilt on the planet. And that was the start of a really strange time. Constant conversations with my little girl, like, when am I going to see you? What are we doing? When am I going to have time with you? And me and my former partner, after 15 years, decided to split. So we were living in separate houses. Hartley was between the two, become quite difficult. So I sat there and I thought, everything I do for my child, but then I'm not spending time with her. So I went to the board in January and said, I'd like you to consider me stepping down at the end of the season. These are my reasons. I got met with a flat no. It's not happening. You've got 2 years left, so you're not going anywhere. Which on one hand is like, great, but on the other hand, so then you start thinking, okay, am I making the right decision? Maybe not, maybe I am. And then I literally just, it got worse and worse, and I started feeling this pressure, a weird pressure like I'd never felt before. And then I was leaving my house at 5 in the morning. I was getting in at 11 o'clock at night because obviously I was travelling back and forth from Sheffield. The club then, I went back to the club in March and I said, I really, really need a break. I think I need some more time. I need some time with my daughter. I need, she's at a critical age. It was no. I was thinking, oh no. So then I went in to see Unai.
Unai Emery, the
men's manager. And I went in and I said, Unai, and I explained my whole situation, and he said, Carla, I get it. When I left Arsenal, I needed a real break for a few months. I needed to find myself. I needed to spend time with my family. So he helped me with the conversation. I met again many, many times with Monchi and Damian, who are the sporting director and the president, with Unai, the 3 of them. And then they came back to me offering me a house, a car, a nanny. You want to move down here? And I was like, right. It was quite it was really difficult because you've got someone that really values the work you've done, but this is a solely personal decision. And it was head and heart pulling. And then we had a really long conversation and they accepted, and I said I wanted to go and have some time to breathe. I wanted to spend some time with my little girl. And they accepted it. They were unbelievable. They are really quite unbelievable humans that I still speak to now, go to the men's games, have really good relationships with them all. And so I took a break and got to spend a lot more time with my little girl.
Because you never get that back.
Correct, yeah. And it's funny because we're closer than we've ever been, and it was needed.
Yeah, but of course that is difficult for a football club to explain publicly, isn't it? I mean, after a time you can talk about it, and they could, but at the time people, I imagine, were thinking there must be more to this. What's going on here? Has there been a fallout behind the scenes, or
Well, they came out with a statement which I thought was lovely actually, because they said, obviously Carla's leaving, and we just want to be clear that we tried to help her in every way possible to make her want to stay. And I thought their statement was very, very wholehearted, professional, and took care of the truth. And I think everybody knew quite quickly, because I did an awful lot of media after that, and then went to the Olympics. But it was. They helped with that. Yeah,
it's really good that you can leave, with good memories and good feelings, and you could go back, and that's important. As a manager, you have a win rate. This is according to Wikipedia, which isn't always correct, but I found it to be mostly correct on things like this. A career win rate as a manager of 43.67%, which is very healthy. I think it's anything over 40%. I always think that's pretty good.
Considering I've spent a year in a relegation fight, and I've been at clubs that we've had to build, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, I think it's very good. I equate it to cricket. I always look at batting averages in cricket, and any batter who's got an average of over 40, I think is doing well, and I think over 40% is very good. And with Ireland, so far, it's embryo, 62.5%. Is this right? 8 games, won 5, lost 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, competitive. Won 5, lost 1. But we played the USA twice in a double header in the summer, which was something else.
Yeah, something else. It shouldn't be counted, really.
Yeah, so that 62 can creep on.
Yeah. No, it's very good. I've got Jack Charlton's name written down here for one reason and one reason only.
Yeah.
Of course, Jack, I don't even have to say what Jack did for the Republic of Ireland and what an iconic figure he is. But a lot of that success, a lot down to him personally and the way he was, but it was to do with background research and looking at ancestry and getting players. Are you the same in terms of finding players for Ireland who might not be obviously Irish or have any Irish ancestry?
Yes, in short. There's a bit of work going on in the background for us to try and find. It's funny because the US market is full of Irish passports, dual passports. There's a bit of work that's just been started out there, so there's some hidden gems out there. It's just finding them. But we're on with it.
A bit of detective work.
Yeah.
But it does sound like the players that you're working with now have got a future for you. The way you've started with them.
Yeah, we've got some exceptional talent. We're really blessed. We've got people like Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe, who, in my opinion, are 2 world-class players. And we've also got beyond that some experienced WSL players, and then a big chunk of championship players. So the good thing is we've got some good young talent coming through, and I think there's an opportunity to really work with this group.
Do you see yourself now as an international manager, or would you ever be tempted to go back to the club scene?
Yeah, no, look, I think you never know, but I think, of course, us football managers, you never you do what's right for yourself, your career, whether that's international or club. You never know what it's going to look like, but you certainly don't rule it out.
Everybody who's been an international manager, I think, has said the big sacrifice is that day-to-day working with players. Yeah,
I find that tough. That's probably the biggest thing I found tough, because I'm used to, for the last 10 years, working day-to-day on the grass with the players, and then like this period now, from when we come back from the USA, July through to October, is such a big window. It's such a big time. Everyone's in pre-season, you're scratching your head. So that's the difficult part.
And you're presumably getting out and about watching games and watching potential players all the time.
Yeah. The women's game kicked off this weekend, so we were at games Friday in Sheffield actually against Sunderland, because Sunderland had 5 Irish players. Game Saturday, game Sunday. So yeah, lots of games now. But
lots of games. Yeah, taking note. And are people, sometimes players, aware that you're there and thinking, "Oh, I better have a good game today"?
We always let them know we're coming.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that for a particular reason?
No.
Just to
more
show
so
that you're
just to catch
interested
up
in
after the game sometimes. But yeah, we'll always let them know.
Yeah. Does your daughter play?
My daughter, I tried to get into football. Bless her, she's had it put in her face her whole life, and she was at Sheffield Wednesday under 6s, under 7s, down in Hillsborough she probably was there for 6-7 months, and then she's like, "Mummy, I don't want to do football." She's a dancer, gymnast, musical theatre,
Right.
yeah, everything that's not football. So yeah, she's. I think it's been so much in her face for so long. I think she chose to go the other way.
She's not so much resented it, but think, "Oh, I've had enough of that."
She gets enough of it. Yeah. She has to come to games with me, so I don't think we're going to see a footballer in Hartley.
No. Do you have a club that you support? I don't know whether you dare say it, but you have a soft spot for a particular football team or one?
I think Liverpool. I grew up supporting Liverpool. I was always taken to Liverpool as a young.
Were you?
Yeah, as a young girl. But look, I've obviously got a soft spot for Sheffield United. I started my career there. I think there's unbelievable people there. I mean, going back there on Friday night, the same people, just really good human beings, and they've just got some wonderful people. And it's a club that did a lot for me, and a club that I'll always have a special place in my heart for them.
You mentioned Kevin McCabe earlier and the part that he played in supporting you at Sheffield United. And Kevin was one of the guests in this series, actually.
Okay.
Saw him quite recently, and it was a pleasure to see him. He is the kind of guy that the women's game needs in football clubs, isn't he? To have the vision and the enterprise to say, Kevin will always make a call.
He called
for
me.
better or worse. No, I mean, he's never afraid to make a decision for better or worse.
Yeah.
And if he's backing you, he's backing you.
Yeah. I think the thing about Kevin as well is, and I think everybody at Sheffield United would say the same, he would know everything about you, your partner, your family, your lifestyle, what you like, what you don't like, and he would know everything about everyone. And you know what it's like when you really value people, you get more out of them.
Yeah.
And he was one of the best at that. I really believe that. I mean, with Hartley as well, he's got I don't know if you know this, but in Scarborough he's got a little coffee shop in the cricket club called Hartley's.
I didn't know.
And if we go down to Scarborough, we'll go down there. But he was somebody that just genuinely cared about people, and that's why I think he got an awful lot out of people.
Yeah. So as you sit here now with a long stretch to go in women's football, hopefully. I mean, you've been in it for over 20 years anyway.
Yeah.
Player and manager. Where do you? What particular ambitions have you got? Is there anything there that you're thinking, that's what I want to do before?
Yeah, look, I want to get to the World Cup in Brazil in a couple of years. It's going to be difficult, but we've got a group of players that are really hungry. Want to make the Euros if I'm still in international football. And then, of course, I want to be winning something in the women's game at club level. So there's still a lot that I want to do. Whilst I feel old, I feel like I've got some years in me yet.
And how big an inspiration? I mentioned him earlier, Jack Charlton, and what he did in Ireland, and what a famous man he is for all the right reasons. Is that sort of an inspiration? The fact that Ireland means something on the football stage, which it never did before Jack. It gives you something to live up to, almost. Yeah,
there's always a comparison with Jack Charlton, which is really interesting because, look, in Ireland, the game's huge. Yes, they've got other games, nation sports, but he's someone that you have to look up to when you think about Irish football. Yeah, excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, Carla. A really varied career. You've come a long way from the Isle of Wight, which doesn't really
have any kind of a football tradition particularly, does it?
No.
You know, if you're born in the Isle of Wight, I don't suppose many people born, or parents of children in the Isle of Wight, thinking, oh, they're going to be a footballer or anything like that. But it's a lovely island, even though you don't know it really, do you?
Yeah,
You left it at 3 years old. A long journey, and it's been fascinating talking to you about it.
Thank you.
Carla, thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome.
And we look forward to more of these. I don't know who's coming next, but somebody will on My Sporting Life. Thank you for joining us. See you soon. Bye.